Hello, I'm Chris Litterman, and welcome to this Bloomberg podcast. I'm joined by special guests from the world of Bloomberg to share real stories from this global leader in business and financial information. In every episode, we focus on a different aspect of Bloomberg's work and culture. And in this episode, we're talking sustainability in business. I'm joined by Head of ESG Platform and Analytics, Soojin Lee, and from Workplace Experience, Gosia and Welcome to the show, both of you. On the show, we always ask the same question to start us off, and that's why did you say yes to Bloomberg? Soojin, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm originally from South Korea, but I grew up abroad in Papua New Guinea and Malaysia, some of the places. So I've always been drawn to change, to new things, diversity. And when I was interviewing with Bloomberg, I had an opportunity to visit the office. Walking into the Hong Kong office, the view of the Victoria Harbor, TV studio, anchors filming live, I was just blown away. And it seemed so dynamic. And the people that I met that day were so open. I knew that I wanted to work here. It was a blend of tech and finance, but it was really the culture that sold me immediately that day.
For me, to be fairly honest, when I was researching the company, it was the cultural aspect of the company really just spoke to me so highly. And then walking into the first interview, the spectacular offices that we have, and just the aspect of the pantry, how everybody just collaborates with each other, really broken out silos of those kind of typical cubicle offices and management structure. Like you can really see people networking, grabbing coffee together, and just having, like really meaningful conversations on the fly, almost felt like it. So it was really amazing just to see that, the openness as well, similar to you, Soojin. And yeah, I think the culture for me, the values, and just the element of being, being a foreigner in a different country, and just, this element of actually, we like that. We like that you speak different languages. We like that you have something else to offer in addition to your role. So
yeah, so a huge part of it was the culture for both of you.
Absolutely, yeah.
The spaces, the views, the people,
yeah,
languages.
The
fish tank.
as well.
The fish tank, especially, especially in our old office. I mean, it's the same in current office, but you would arrive on the top of the escalator was just this enormous fish tank. So I think that was really a wow factor as well. It's just like, wow, you don't really see this in office spaces.
Yeah, it's been thought through. Could you describe to me the first day you walked into Bloomberg in your
Should I
job?
go first?
Once you had your job, yeah.
Oh, once I had my job.
Yeah.
I remember this was 18 years ago in the Hong Kong office. And there were about 12 of us who were starting that day. And the first thing we did was create our badge. We took the elevator up to the 26th floor, walked into a view of Victoria Harbor. It's a TV studio with 2 anchors filming live, and all of us stood paralyzed with a white wall background. That was the memory of the first day, and the rest was training, orientation, trying to figure out what this beast of a company was.
My first day, once I actually did get hired, was similar, but in London office in our old headquarters. Walking into the office, still being absolutely amazed and wowed by just the beauty of the building, picking up my paper pass with the new employee sign on it. And then it was a full-on day of induction. And I just remember frantically taking notes on anything and everything, just in case I might need it. And to be fairly honest, I used that notebook for like first year to reference back. And a lot of those things really did come in handy. But it was just, yet again, the wow factor of walking into the building. It's just such a different office environment than anywhere that I have been. So it's just continuously being wowed and amazed.
Tell me a bit more about yourselves, your role, what you're doing at the moment.
So I lead our ESG platform and analytics team in the core product division here at Bloomberg. So my role is really about creating sustainability data and analytics, so solutions for our customers in the financial community to incorporate sustainability in their decision making.
Fantastic. So you're on the forefront of helping those clients with the decisions they're making to improve their own sustainability?
with clarity and confidence.
Perfect. That sounds good, doesn't it? And Gosia, what about
Um,
you?
so my role, a little bit different, more kind of client facing and internal employees facing. So it's within workplace operations. I look after the hospitality pantry operations, and obviously, its sustainability is a really big part of this because understanding the operational aspect, how we can implement some of the changes with sustainability in mind. So a little bit different approach from not just the client facing, but really the internal employees.
Mm. And could you both describe to me how you've ended up in these roles that you find yourselves in now, and what has that journey looks like? How has sustainability come into that for you?
So I think for me personally, it's definitely has not been a linear career progression. Where I started versus where I am right now, it's very different. And I think that is true beauty of our company as well. You just have to be very open and curious, and you can really make the role eventually to what you wanted it to be, and just be flexible with this as well. Just you come with the mindset of where you want to be, but that might actually change in 5 years' time. So just being open to opportunities. And when I was actually based in New York. I was based in London, relocated to New York, and then this opportunity came about. I was asked if I could relocate back to London, and in true Bloomberg fashion, when opportunity arises, you have to grab it and go with it. And initially, what I relocated for was a little bit different to what I'm doing right now, and I think that's when the sustainability. I'm very passionate. Personally about sustainability, and I think this is where I kind of saw this is the yet another element we could incorporate in our operations, and how we could actually make this really tangible for the employees and guests coming into our offices. Pantry being kind of the central and point of every office in globally. So I think that's kind of I built off of that, and over the years, kind of it evolved and grew into what it is right now.
So I've been at Bloomberg for 18 years. The last 4 I've spent in this product manager role for sustainable finance solutions. So 18 years ago, if you asked me if I would end up working in a space related to sustainability, I don't think I even knew what it was. I joined Bloomberg through the entry level program. So worked in analytics, then moved into the sales department. This was out of Hong Kong for about 9 years. Then I had an opportunity to move to the London office to join a newly formed group. This was more dedicated to learning and development. About 3 years later, I moved to New York, where I spent some time, and that's where an opportunity to join product opened up. And this was an area that Bloomberg was really heavily investing in. And gosh, I thought, wow,
Yeah.
what an exciting greenfield space to jump into. And that's sort of been my career journey. I relocated back to London in 2022, so it's been about 2 years back. I'm very happy. Yeah, but if I asked, if I would end up in this space ever, I don't think I ever imagined it.
No, and perhaps
Yeah.
your younger self. You said not long ago you wouldn't have really understood what you're doing now. What would your younger self make of what you're doing now? Say at 18, you're thinking about your career, thinking about your options. What would they have made, Soojin, of what you do now?
I think this would be beyond them. I think they would. I think my 18-year-old self would be proud that the work I do makes a big difference to the financial community, which ultimately helps helps the world, towards these goals. So I think I'd be shocked, and I think I'd be proud.
Shocked and proud. That's good. That's good. And Gosha, you mentioned that you are passionate about sustainability. What does it mean to you? It's a word we use a lot. What does it mean to you?
It's to be fairly honest, it's such a you can explain it in so many different ways. I think it's just really understanding your own impact and your own accountability of your actions, and just awareness as well. I would say just really being mindful of your choices, of your decisions from start to finish, and in everything in your day-to-day life, and then having ability to implement this in your work environment is just also like it so correlates very closely with my core values. So I think
that mindfulness of the choices.
Yeah,
exactly. And how is it that you're making that part of your role? How does it play out in what you do day to day?
So really just understanding everything from operational aspect of the building. So working very closely with different vendor managers, understanding our waste management strategy, understanding the aspect of the building and potential limitations if we have any. We most likely do not have any because we never say no. And really understanding also, like, especially when it comes to pantry specifically, supply chain. How can we align what we provide in the pantry with the core values of the company, but also sustainability aspect of this from waste management perspective? Like, we shouldn't be producing waste. Always, it's better to reuse. Do we have any operations limitations? Are there any aspects that we could be implementing or adjusting further? And also listening to our employees, to be fairly honest. There are a lot of people out there with great ideas, and it's just bridging that gap between, you have a great idea, can we operationally implement it, and just pulling those different key stakeholders and just collectively agreeing and coming up with solutions for those elements.
Yeah, fantastic. And for you, Soojin, you're getting into the data and helping the clients understand that data and use that data. What is it about that helps the clients? Why are they looking to you for that data?
They're looking for quality data. They're looking for something easy to use. A lot of our customers sometimes feel overwhelmed because the space is new and evolving. So, to help our customers with decision making, incorporating sustainability into their processes, their strategies, this is where our data quality, our tools come into play. And so, this gives them efficiencies. It sounds very corporate. But this enables them to make decisions with clarity and confidence.
So they can then, in their space, in their industry,
Yeah.
they're making informed decisions on how they can be more sustainable based on accurate data. As you say, it's concise, it's clear, it's timely, and they can use that effectively.
And I would also add that the data element is across all our different departments within the wider company. We are a data company, and even from like the tangible items changes within our office spaces, we still need to have data supporting our decisions. So we always have a starting point and then end goal of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and supporting data for that.
And I'm interested in two people working in sustainability. What does a typical day look like? Can you talk me through your day? Gosh, what does it look like?
Yes, powered by caffeine.
Yeah.
So as soon
How
as
early is the cup of coffee in the morning?
as soon as I walk into
Okay.
the office, so around
Okay.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
I would say. I will grab our reusable cup. I'll make myself an iced coffee, which is ice and double espresso. And then just really checking in from operational perspective, where we are, what we're doing, how we're getting on, if there's any sort of potential, hiccups that we should be foreseeing. And then it's just, I would say business as usual. It's back to meetings, a lot of revisions and understanding dashboards to ensure that what we're doing is supported by data.
As a product manager, I work with multiple departments. So primarily our stakeholders are engineering, our data analysts, quants, user experience designers. So my typical day looks like walking in, spending time with my team in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I work with our engineering team that come in during New York time. As well as our UX designers. And it's important that we talk to customers very often so that we know what our users need, what we want to build for them. So there's a lot of customer research and market research element that's incorporated into the product build.
And you're relating closely to the clients on a daily basis, as you say.
We try.
I'm interested as well how the data, you mentioned how you're using the data. I'm interested in how your roles and your areas work together, the workplace and the data. How do those feed into each other?
Well, I think, my role is really overseeing the kind of operational aspect of how you get into the office and making sure that what we provide to our internal stakeholders as well as our clients is consistent, sustainability driven. And like I keep referencing the culture aspect of it. So there's a really big overlap and networking or connection, I would say, to like D&I, philanthropy, making sure that what we're doing in our spaces is really speaking to the larger values. Obviously in sustainability in mind, like, the engagements that we tend to do in the pantry. I guess, I cannot speak for Soojin, but if you want to take this away, but like how guests or clients are coming to our offices, pantry is to some, our offices actually in general, not just the pantry, it is the starting topic of the conversations because we are so different from most of the kind of corporate offices. So I think that's how it kind of starts, and then it evolves into the detailed conversation that you actually, the purpose of the meeting.
I like to say that sustainability is in Bloomberg's DNA. So within, the product area where we build data, indices, and other tools, obviously we're servicing the financial community, but just Bloomberg, if you think about Mike Bloomberg and all he's done to champion climate change, the workplace operations,
Absolutely.
risk, legal, it's just embedded. And the data could be used in any form for whichever purpose people have needs for.
In the DNA, and Bloomberg taking such a unique approach that that's a talking point as soon as people walk in through the offices.
Absolutely. And I think, like I said, like a lot of the people can actually relate to the culture, to the values that we have in the company. Sustainability is a big part of that. So I think, apart from just, the interview process and being hired for a specific role, the values have to speak to your own self, true self. And I think that's what we tend to do through our office designs, through our approach to every single product, department, and the people element.
It's time, both of you, for our lightning round. Now, our quick fire round. Are you ready for some short, snappy answers?
Yes.
Yeah? All right, first question. What's something you do outside of work for the benefit of the planet?
Use and reuse.
Love it. That is the short as snappy as it gets.
Use and reuse.
One might say I was practicing.
And Soojin?
I walk.
You walk, yeah.
In any city I go to. Make a conscious effort. It's good for my health too.
That's great.
So I made a pledge at last year's PRI. Sorry, we were meant to be short and snappy. I walk.
That's
no,
fine.
this is really good.
That's interesting as well. Both good things to do. In 3 words, describe your experience of Bloomberg's approach to sustainability.
Say committed, innovative, and collaborative.
I agree. Forward thinking, accountability, and I would probably say collaborative as well.
Yeah, interesting. Some unusual or unexpected words in there. I like that. And in 1 word, okay, getting really short now.
Yeah.
In 1 word, what would you personally like to see in the future of sustainability?
Oh, I got 2 words.
I'll give you 2.
Accountability and transparency.
Okay,
Can I get
Soojin?
3?
Oh, that's stretching it, Soojin.
Fire on is getting longer and longer.
Come on.
Breakthrough in technology, but if I had to cut it to 1 word, be technology personally.
Interesting. Okay, fascinating. Go on, give me a little bit more about why technology.
I'd love to see breakthrough in technology and the commitment and the collaboration come together. And that, I think, creates long-term value.
Fantastic. You've passed the lightning round. You've passed the quickfire round. That's it for the quickfire questions. You can have longer answers from here on in. You actually did very well. Very short answers. I like that. This is a fast evolving industry in sustainability. What's the most important thing you've learned that's helped you grow professionally?
Collaboration and from my angle, definitely staying on top of legislations and being ahead of that. And so that's also true of Bloomberg Fashion, just being ahead of the game.
And what does that mean to you to be ahead of the game? Because we know Bloomberg is ahead of the game. What does that mean?
Leading by example, essentially.
I would agree with Gosia. The market conditions, the regulatory landscape is evolving very fast. So I think it's important that we stay curious, but we need to be adaptive and forward thinking.
Yeah.
I think that's critical to be successful in this space.
And Soojin, why is sustainability such a core value? We've heard about, to Bloomberg, this is a core value. Why is it such a core value?
Personally, I think Bloomberg has the ability to bring such great impact to the financial community, which ultimately aids towards the progress, towards the sustainability goals. So without the financial sector, it's impossible to achieve that. So the role we play as a product person, um, it's not about what our customers' values are and what they believe in. We want to bring transparent data, and they can use it in any form with any intent that they want. Some people look at ESG metrics for different reasons, maybe to mitigate risk. Maybe they are running sustainable investments. There's various reasons for the need for this data, but without transparent data, and disclosure from corporates, it's very hard to bring about change. And I think Bloomberg plays a critical role in bringing that to the industry.
And you mentioned how it's tied to the financial solutions that you offer.
Mm-hmm.
How is Bloomberg doing that? What does that mean for the client?
So our typical clients are asset managers, investment banks, and corporations. So users from the industry, they run investment decisions, and they need data and tools to be able to do that. So they want data that they can trust, and they want a process that's easy for them to do it. And so our goal is to make it easy as possible and give them that quality that they're after.
So that trusted data and that process that they can follow to use that data
Mhm.
to do what they are doing.
Yes.
And who are the users, and how does Bloomberg know what to build for those users?
That's a really interesting aspect of doing research as a product manager, but also uh, iterating so that there's a constant feedback loop. So we meet with customers directly. We get a lot of intelligence from our sales and analytics department. We conduct UX interviews. We go to conferences and events, and there's a feedback loop, a mechanism where we can get quantitative as well as qualitative feedback that we take into account. And most of our users, as I mentioned earlier, are both buy side and sell side asset managers, asset owners, investment banks, as well as corporations.
And I'm wondering if there are particular times where you've seen the impact of the data for the client. Are there times where you've seen that in the financial community?
Yes, I have. Let me give you an example. An analyst or a portfolio manager in the past looked at financial metrics, fundamental data. Now they're trying to incorporate sustainability for a variety of reasons. It could be to mitigate risk, to look for opportunities for alpha, or to meet regulatory requirements. They the industries had a problem with the lack of data and robustness of data in the past. Now, relying on the data that we provide, they can look at sustainability metrics such as carbon intensity much more easily and make sense of what they need to track and commit to or run analysis on.
And Gosia, tell us more about the pantry. You've mentioned it a couple of times. It's a space in the office. Tell us a bit more about how it's designed and why that links to sustainability.
So pantries across all our offices are kind of the heart of the building to some extent. This is where you arrive when you first walk into the office. This is the kind of landing floor, and the purpose of the pantry is really to set you up for your day with your, coffee, tea, whatever that might be, a snack or anything. And also it's a kind of meeting point for everybody within the company. So if you want to have a touch base meeting with somebody, even one to one with your manager, most of the time, unless you need a technology aspect element of for the meeting, people tend to meet in the pantry. It really is the heart and soul of all our offices. The sustainability aspect that comes to it is just being mindful of the choices that we have in the pantry. So from plant-based options to how we segregate our waste to how we actually display our offering, all those elements are all intertwined within all our office operations. We also do measure, which nicely brings back the carbon footprint. We do measure our carbon footprint from our pantry offering as well as our hospitality operations. So just making sure that we have the data elements to make those changes. So when our employees who are very inquisitive ask questions, we have data to back it up. We provide educated answers, and we take feedback on board. But I think pantry is definitely like a heart of the building. I don't know how you feel about this,
This is
Soojin, but whenever you want to have a quick touch base, it's usually meet you in the pantry.
this is the first thing that we talk about, the sustainable nature of our building whenever we bring customers in. And so this is our preference to host events in our office because it's part of the whole culture, the whole experience. And it's coming back to sustainability being in our DNA. So I would agree with that, Gosia.
And it's the first impression as well, isn't it? For someone
Absolutely.
walking in, a guest, a client, first day in the job, there for an interview. That's your impression of what Bloomberg does and its commitment to sustainability.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're saying down to even the snack choices.
Everything is very intentional in the pantry. It looks very easy and seamless, but it's very intentional. Everything from the display to the product placement to product choices to like I said, close interaction and collaboration with the waste management, ensuring that we're doing the right thing, that we're constantly evolving as again legislation are changing, that we're always ahead of all those things. So it's very mindful everything that we do in the pantry.
And it's not all about the pantry, is it? Because there are lots of initiatives that Bloomberg is doing for sustainability.
Yes, absolutely. Part of the integral role of our office design is sustainability. Let's take London, for example. Everything is really mindful and purposefully built to ensure the biggest efficiencies of the operating of the actual building. One of the examples I can give you is our interesting flashing system that we have in the bathrooms. So essentially, the flash works in a similar way as the airplane toilets. So it's like a vacuum kind of suction element, which uses far less water than your regular at-home flash. This allows us to save, I think within the first year of opening the new office, and incorporating this into our operations, we saved 25 million liters of water. So our flash system also repurposes what's called gray water, which is water from rainfall from our sinks as well as the showers. This gets treated in the basement downstairs and put back into the flashing system. Yet again, minimizing how much actually fresh water gets used within those flashing systems. So that's one very spectacular aspect of many in particularly in our London office.
Yeah, spectacular toilet system.
Definitely, it's unique. It's quite it's very unique. I would say it's just unique.
But it matters.
It matters absolutely, and it makes really tangible impact in long term.
And Soojin, in light of some ESG fatigue, we come across sustainability, the terms, the messaging quite a lot. How can we still give meaningful data and insights to clients?
It's a great question, Chris. We still see a lot of demand from our customers that Bloomberg serves. Our customers are still asking us, give us better data, give us easy to use tools. There's a lot of investment activity in the industry still linked to sustainability. So it hasn't really changed much for us, I would say. There's still growing demand.
And how is Bloomberg always able to give that better data and that new data and that relevant data?
I think it has to do with the overall culture of Bloomberg. We're very fast-paced, dynamic, forward-thinking, and we're also very customer-centric. So this constant engagement with customers, trying to solve their biggest pain points, but also to anticipate their future problems.
And do you need to be an expert to work in sustainability?
I would say not as a starting point. I certainly wasn't one. I think you do need to learn subject matter, sustainability, in order to become a good product manager. However, we look for people that are curious, that are willing to learn and come learn about sustainability in order to do the job. I have two examples in my team. We needed somebody who could work with a lot of data with quantitative skills. So we hired a quant from a hedge fund to come join with us, even though he had never worked with sustainable data. We also had an analyst from our data team. So she was one of our partners as an analyst. She wanted to move into the product management space, and she's now a very successful product manager. So we need diverse skill sets on the product team for us to be a strong sustainable finance solutions group. So I would say it's not a prerequisite, but the curiosity and the willingness to learn has to exist.
So you need that diverse skill set and the curiosity and willingness,
Yeah.
not necessarily the specialist
At the start of
skills
it.
at the
Yeah.
start in
Mhm.
sustainability itself. So there might be people thinking about their career, thinking about what they're going to do. How do I make a difference in the world?
Yeah.
How can I change the world in this area? And that would be your message to them is be curious, be willing to learn,
Yes.
and jump in and apply.
Yes.
I echo the same thing. Absolutely. Definitely be curious, be open, open to opportunities as well, and just be mindful that it's not necessarily a linear career progression, if that makes sense. Where you are versus where you end up, it might change drastically, but it's just be curious and open.
And in everything Bloomberg is doing, what impact has it made so far?
I would like to think that this is a new space. Even for non-sustainability experts, we've made it easy for people to incorporate it. We've promoted transparency. We've encouraged disclosure, and just you don't have to be an expert in sustainability to incorporate it. And I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Absolutely. And I think it's from more like the office perspective, it's something that is very relatable and tangible to an individual as you walk into our spaces.
And how would you describe your ambition for what Bloomberg does next in sustainability?
I would just probably continue to lead by example and provide great solutions internally and externally to our clients.
We'll work with the industry, the regulators, our customers, and we'll continue to evolve and be at the forefront.
Soojin, Gosia, thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this episode, give it a like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. There's more information about the podcast and our guests in the description below. And check out the rest of the series for more fantastic guests from the world of Bloomberg. Thanks for joining me, Chris Lisserman, and my guest today, Soojin, Gosia. We'll see you next time.